Let me know if any of you are interested to read also.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Okay, sure, Mother. Yeah, after starting the recording, I can. Yeah, you can start with brief prayer, Mother, and then you can read. I'll share all my screen also. Prabhupada Pranam, Mother.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyati Dekshatarine. This is which chapter, Prabhuji? Sorry,
Chapter 32.
32. I'm on phone, so the screen was not clear.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can use physical book also. Is okay. Yeah, chapter 32.
Chapter 32, Krishna returns to the gopis. When Lord Krishna finally reappeared among the assembled gopis, he looked very beautiful, just befitting a person with all kinds of opulences. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabihi. Krishna alone is not particularly beautiful, but when his energy, especially his pleasure energy, represented by Radharani, expands, he looks very magnificent. The Maya, the conception of perfection and absolute truth without potency, is due to insufficient knowledge. Actually, outside the exhibition of his different potencies, the absolute truth is not complete. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa means that his body is a transcendental form of eternal bliss and knowledge. Krishna is always surrounded by different potencies, and therefore he is perfect and beautiful. We understand from the Brahma Samhita and Skanda Purana that Krishna is always surrounded by many thousands of goddesses of fortune. The gopis are all good goddesses of fortune, and Krishna took them hand in hand on the bank of the Yamuna. It is said in the Skanda Purana that out of many thousands of gopis, 16,000 are prominent. Out of those 16,000 gopis, 108 are especially prominent. Out of these 108 gopis, 8 are still more prominent. Out of those 8 gopis, Radharani and Chandravali are even more prominent, and out of these two gopis, Radharani is the most prominent. When Krishna entered the forest on the bank of the river Yamuna, the moonlight dissipated the surrounding darkness. Due to the season, flowers like the kunda and kadamba were blooming, and a gentle breeze was carrying their aroma. Due to the aroma, the bees were also flying in the breeze, thinking that the aroma was honey. The gopis made a seat for Krishna by leveling the soft sand and placing cloths over it. The gopis who were gathered there had almost all been followers of the Vedas. In their previous births, during Lord Ramachandra's advent, they had been Vedic scholars who desired the association of Lord Ramachandra in conjugal love. Ramachandra had given them the benediction that they would be present for the advent of Lord Krishna and he would fulfill their desires. During Krishna's advent, Vedic scholars took birth in the shape of the gopis in Vrindavana. As young gopis, they got the association of Krishna in fulfillment of their previous birth's desire. The ultimate goal of their perfect desire was attained, and they were so joyous that they had nothing further to desire. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. If one attains the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he has no desire for anything. When the gopis had Krishna in their company, not only all their grief, but their lamenting in the absence of Krishna was relieved. They felt they had no desire to be fulfilled. Fully satisfied in the company of Krishna, they spread their cloths on the ground. These garments were made of fine linen and smeared with the red kumkuma, which decorated their breasts. With great care, they spread a sitting place for Krishna. Krishna was their life and soul, and they created a very comfortable seat for him. Sitting on the seat among the gopis, Krishna became more beautiful. Great yogis like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, or even Lord Shesha and others always try to fix their attention upon Krishna in their hearts. But here, the gopis actually saw Krishna seated before them on their cloths. In the society of the gopis, Krishna looked very beautiful. They were the most beautiful damsels within the three worlds, and they assembled together around Krishna. Prabhuji, you want me to continue or stop here?
Mute. Yeah, you read a very comfortable seat for him.
Um, no, I read till assembled together around Krishna. One like last one, but last paragraph on page 242.
242. Oh, okay. Assembled together around Krishna. Got it. Yeah, maybe let us see if somebody else will continue from there.
I can read, but
Oh,
if anyone wants to, they can.
yeah, sure. You can continue with it then. Yeah, thank you, Mate.
Krishna seated himself beside each of the many gopis, and it may be asked here in how he did this. There is a significant word in this verse, Ishvara. As it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam. Ishvara refers to the Supreme Lord as a super soul seated in everyone's heart. Krishna also manifested this potency of expansion as Paramatma in this gathering with the gopis. Krishna was sitting by the side of each gopi, unseen by the others. Krishna was so kind to the gopis that instead of sitting in their hearts to be appreciated in yogic meditation, he seated himself by their sides. By seating himself outside, he showed special favor to the gopis who were the selected beauties of all creation. Having gotten their most beloved Lord, the gopis began to please him by moving their eyebrows and smiling, and also by suppressing their anger. Some of them took his lotus feet in their laps and massaged them, and while smiling, they confidently expressed their suppressed anger and said, "Dear Krishna, we are ordinary women of Vrindavana, and we do not know how much uh, do not know much about Vedic knowledge, what is right and what is wrong. We therefore put a question to you, and since you are very learned, you can answer it properly. In dealings between lovers, we find that there are three classes of men. One class simply receives, another class reciprocates favorably, even if the lover is very contrary, and the third class neither acts contrary nor answers favorably in dealings of love. So, out of these three classes, which do you prefer, or which do you call honest? In answer, Krishna said, "My dear friends, persons who simply reciprocate the loving dealings of the other party are just like merchants. They give in loving affairs as much as they get from the other party. Practically, there is no question of love. It is simply self interested or self centered business dealing. Even those without a tinge of loving affairs are better than these merchants. Better than the first class is a second class of men who love in spite of the opposite party's contrariness. Such sincere love can be seen when the father and the mother love their children in spite of their children's neglect. The third class neither reciprocate nor neglect. They can be further divided into two classes. One comprises the self-satisfied who do not require anyone's love. They are called Atma Rama, which means they are absorbed in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and so do not care whether one loves them or not. But another class comprises ungrateful men. They are called Cal- Callios. The men in this group revolt against superior persons. For instance, a son, in spite of receiving all kinds of things from loving parents, may be callous and not reciprocate. Those in this class are generally known as Guru Druha, which means they receive favors from the parents or the spiritual master and yet neglect them. Krishna indirectly answered the questions of the gopis, even those questions which implied that Krishna did not properly reciprocate their dealings. In answer, Krishna said that he, as a supreme personality of Godhead, is self satisfied. He does not require anyone's love, but at the same time, he said that he is not ungrateful. My dear friends, Krishna continued, you might be aggrieved by my words and acts, but you must know that sometimes I do not reciprocate my devotees' dealings with me. My devotees are very much attached to me, but sometimes I do not reciprocate their feelings properly in order to increase their love for me more and more. If I can very easily be approached by them, then they might think, Krishna is so easily available, so sometimes I do not respond. If a person has no money, but after some time accumulates some wealth and then loses it, he will think of the lost property 24 hours a day. Similarly, in order to increase the love of my devotees, sometimes I appear to be lost to them, and instead of forgetting me, they feel their loving sentiments for me increase. My dear friend, do not think for a moment that I have been dealing with you as I do with ordinary devotees. I know what you are. You are forsaken all kinds of social and religious obligations. You have given up all connection with your parents without caring for social convention and religious obligations. You have come to me and loved me, and I am so much obligated to you that I cannot treat you as ordinary devotees. Do not think that I was away from you. I was near to you. I was simply seeing how much you were anxious for me in my absence. So please do not try to find fault with me because you consider me so dear to you. Kindly excuse me if I have done anything wrong. I cannot repay your continuous love for me, even throughout the lifetimes of the demigods in the heavenly planets. It is impossible to repay you or show enough gratitude for your love. Therefore, please be satisfied by your own pious activities. You have displayed exemplary attraction for me, overcoming the greatest difficulties arising from family connections. Please be satisfied with your highly exemplary character, for it is not possible for me to repay my debt to you. The exemplary character of devotional service manifested by the devotees of Vrindavana is the purest type of devotion. It is it is enjoined in authoritative shastras that devotional service must be haituki and aprahi, apratihata. This means that devotional service to Krishna cannot be checked by political or religious convention. The stage of devotional service is always transcendental. The gopis particularly showed pure devotional service toward Krishna, so much so that Krishna himself remained indebted to them. Lord Chaitanya thus said that devotional service manifested by the gopis in Vrindavana excelled all other methods of approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of 32nd chapter of Krishna. Krishna returns to the gopis. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji, for reading this chapter. It's a nice chapter, and this is also Purushottam month, so we can hear about Krishna and gopis. That is recommended this month to read Srimad Bhagavatam, especially these chapters also are nice to read. So the chapter is chapter 32 is Krishna returning to gopis. The context here is that Krishna participated in the previous chapters. Krishna participated in the Rasa Leela with the gopis, and then is described how he was present with before each of them, and then they were feeling proud. Oh, Krishna is with me only, like that. Then Krishna left the arena for some time, and then the gopis realized that Krishna left, and also Radharani is not seen. They understood Krishna went along with Radharani. And then the next chapter we heard how they were searching for Krishna, and then they found different footsteps, and they were doing investigative activity to find what would have happened. And finally they saw Radharani also, because Krishna left Radharani also for a moment of proud exhibited by Srimati Radharani. Of course, it's a pastime. These pastimes of union and separation are helpful in releasing the spiritual mellows, especially in Madhurya Rasa. So that's what happens between Krishna and Radha. So that's why Krishna left Radharani also for some time. And then all the gopis and Radharani, they all went to the bank of the Yamuna, and they were glorified. In the just previous chapter, we were hearing how they were remembering about Krishna all the time. They were thinking, oh, Krishna used to do that, Krishna used to do this. Like that, they were remembering Krishna by glorifying Krishna's pastimes, like that. Now, in this chapter, we are hearing how when Krishna came back, how he was so beautiful, and then how they expressed their anger in a gentle way, nice way, and then how Krishna responds to them, uh, how why he left their association, apparently externally, and then how he is grateful to them, how Gopi's love is the topmost. That's what we are hearing in this chapter. Now, given that context and the overall essence of this chapter, we'll go to the details. So, this chapter starts with how Krishna reappeared before the gopis. At that time, he's looking very, very beautiful, it seems. It's described, one particular phrase is used, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabi. That means Krishna is so beautiful, not just because he is himself, because he's so beautiful because he's always with his energies, especially his pleasure potency, Srimati Radharani. That is the main point being described here. And then Prabhupada is refuting here how Mayavadis think that Supreme Lord is without any potencies. But Prabhupada is clearly emphasizing here that Krishna is always with his potencies like that. And then the next thing Prabhupada goes on to is how all the gopis are expansions of Srimati Radharani. And of course, we also hear Srimati Radharani also expands as Lakshmi Devi is also different Lakshmi Devis, goddess of fortune. That's why sometimes gopis are described as expanse of Lakshmi Devi, also goddess of fortune, like that, like the way they're describing here also. And then Radharani's topmost position is also being described here. Out of 16,000 gopis, 108 gopis are very, very special. Out of them, 8 gopis are super special. Out of them, Radharani and Chandravali are even more special. Between those two, Radharani is most prominent like that. In fact, we hear similar description in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita also, and that we are also reading. Uh, Basically, how Radharani is the topmost gopi with the highest forms of ecstasy exhibited for Krishna, and no one else can reach that position actually. And even to understand Radha Krishna's pastimes, we were reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, that somebody needs to be in the highest Madhurya Rasa by practicing devotion service at the spontaneous devotion service stage, in by following the gopis love for Krishna like that. Then only they can understand even like that. So that's the other thing we were hearing. Other thing we were hearing from Chaitanya Charitamrita was how Srimati Radharani was Mahabhava Swarupini. That means there's a description of three energies was given, how external energy, internal energy, and then marginal potency. We all hear these common terms, right? Marginal potency is Jivas, internal energy is Yogamaya, external energy is Mahamaya, like that. And this internal energy has three features: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. And Sat means eternal feature, Chit means knowledge feature, Ananda means blissful feature. And the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Chitamta also describes how the Sat feature is exhibited by the potency called Sandhini potency, that is the existence potency. And then Chit feature or knowledge feature is exhibited by Samvit potency. And then Ananda feature or bliss feature is exhibited by Hladini potency, like that. So these different potencies are there among the internal potency. And then with the Hladini potency, the core essential part of the Hladini potency is described as Prema, Krishna Prema. And even within that Krishna Prema, the core essential part of that is described as Mahabhava. That is what is represented by Srimati Radharani, like that we hear from Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's why Radharani position is topmost. So now going to the next paragraph. When Krishna entered the forest, how was the atmosphere around is being described nicely in Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, in Krishna book that Prabhupada is uh, summarizing for our benefit. How they were on the bank of the river Yamuna, and the moonlight was nice. It was dissipating the darkness surrounding them. And then due to the season, the flowers like Kunda and Kadamba were blooming nicely, it seems. These flowers had very, very nice aroma. And there was gentle breeze that was carrying that aroma, it seems. And it's so honey-like breeze that bees were floating in that, flying in that breeze, it seems. And then the gopis made a seat for Krishna to sit by leveling the soft sand. That means they made it like flat, and they put their own cloths on top of the sand so Krishna can sit nicely. This portion is being elaborated in the next paragraph nicely. So this statement is made now. How gopis took care of Krishna by making the sand leveled and put their own cloth so that Krishna can sit nicely, comfortably. Now let's go through that description. Who are these gopis? We hear in other chapters that these gopis are of different categories. In this particular paragraph, one particular category of gopis are being emphasized. Who are they? They are in previous Yuga, Treta Yuga, when Lord Ramachandra was there. Different yogis in the forest, they were desiring to have the company of Lord Ramachandra in the conjugal mode, it seems. That's why those sages from Treta Yuga who are desiring Lord Krishna's association like this, Lord Rama's association like this, he gave them benediction that in the next Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, you will have that opportunity like that. So this is one category of gopis who took birth in the again Dwapar Yuga is described. So that way they got the association of Krishna again. That is a portion described in the beginning of this paragraph. Then um, because their ultimate goal of their perfect desire was attained, they were so joyous that they had no further desire. This is very important to note. Commonly, we hear from Bhagavad Gita how desire or hankering is more of a symptom of mode of passion, and lust is characterized as strongest desire, a serious desire, like that, right? So lust. So when we hear from Bhagavad Gita how when lust is not satisfied, then we'll get angry, and when lust is satisfied, we'll get greedy. We want more and more, more and more, like that. Whereas gopis are beyond the modes of nature. They are exhibiting transcendental symptoms and transcendental qualities. So because of that, when they got association of Krishna, they were completely satisfied and they did not have any other desire after seeing Krishna. That's what is being described here. So, so basically, of course, when the Krishna was not there for some time, they were distressed also. But now, when Krishna came back, that relief they got, relief of distress from separation. But then they're also very happy and satisfied. They don't have any more desires, also, like that. Now, it's described Krishna was their life and soul, and they created a very comfortable seat for him. Now, the next paragraph, Gopi's great fortune is being described. How great yogis, even Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Anantashesha, they always try to fix Krishna in their hearts. But now, gopis have this great fortune that is personally present before them. So that is the greatest fortune of the gopis, is sitting on their cloths even, like that. So, and while sitting with them, Krishna looked very beautiful. Of course, we hear from Chaitanya Charitamrita how when Krishna looks gopis, Krishna feels more happy. By being happy, Krishna is more beautiful. When gopis see Krishna beautiful, they are more happy. And when gopis are happy, they are more beautiful. And seeing them happy, Krishna is happy again. Like that, it goes on. Their happiness increases and their beauty increases mutually. So now, in the next paragraph, Krishna was seated beside each of the gopi. So there are so many gopis, but Krishna manifested on the side of each of the gopi, and other gopis did not see. Every gopi is thinking that Krishna is only with me, sitting only beside me, like that. That's how we manifested again here, like that. Then the gopis, after gopis started to please him, it seems. How? By moving their eyebrows and by smiling and also by suppressing their anger. Why is that mention of suppressing their anger given? Because they are not happy that Krishna left them from the Rasalila arena. And then they had to search for so long, and after so long, he came back again. But they're not expressing that anger yet. They're still in the pleasing mood. They're trying to please Krishna only right now. And then some of them are trying to serve Krishna by taking his lotus feet on their laps and massaging their lotus feet. And interestingly, while smiling is described, they confidentially express their suppressed anger. That means they didn't go wow, 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 like that, why did you do this? Why did you get out? Why did you get out? They didn't go loud voice like that. They pleasingly, smilingly, they gently expressed that their anger of Krishna living. How did they do that? Is interestingly described here. Basically, they said, "Uh, we don't know. We're just ordinary women in Vrindavan. We don't know what is right or wrong. That's why we'll place a question before you, like that." What is the question they're asking? They're saying that in dealings between lovers, there are three types of lovers. They're saying three classes of men. First, one class is they simply receive love from the other partner, like that. Simply receive. That means they don't give anything, basically. Yeah, that is one class. For another class is they reciprocate favorably, even if the lover is not giving them anything. They keep giving like that. That is the second class of lovers they are describing. Now, third class of lovers they are describing is they neither acts contrary nor answers favorably in dealing with life. That means they are remaining indifferent. They don't act favorably, express anything, or they're not opposed to anything like that. They're like neutral kind of thing, indifference. Then they're asking, so out of these three classes, which do you prefer, or which do you call honest lover, like that? And Krishna gives a beautiful answer. This beautiful answer has some embedded lessons also for us generally. So let's go through the answer he is giving. He says, persons is talking about the first class people, which is persons who simply reciprocate the loving dealings of the other party are just like merchants. That means if somebody gives me love in one way, I give them love in this love back to the same amount, like that. That's like merchant mentality. You give me this, I'll give you that, like that. Like Pralamar also says, right? My relationship with you is not like a merchant, but my relationship with you is like a master and servant, like that, he says. So here is also saying it's like relationship of merchant, because you give me some love, then I will reciprocate back, like that. So he says there's no question of real love there, because they're only reciprocating with what they're getting. It's simply self-interested or self-centered business dealing, he's saying, like merchant dealing. And then uh, he says, actually, even those without any tinge of loving affairs are better than this merchant mentality, like that, he's saying. That's about the first class mentality he's talking about. Then he says, the second class of lovers are better than the first class. What are those? So first thing, what do we learn from this first class? That we don't engage in bhakti. Oh, Krishna needs to give me this, I'll engage bhakti. We don't aspire for material desires fulfillment from Krishna, for example. That is one aspect. Second aspect is we don't expect that just because I'm a nice devotee, everything will be nice. Krishna will take care of everything, like that. Krishna can do that. As long as we're in right consciousness, Krishna can do that. But if our growth of devotion requires certain turbulence in love life, he will bring that also. So that's the first. That's what we can learn from the first class of lover Krishna is describing. Now then he moves on to the second class of men. What does he say? They love in spite of opposite parties' contrariness. That means uh, even if other persons don't love anything, they still give their love. Those are better, he's saying, compared to the first class. And he gives an example. What is the example? Father and mother love their children. Even though children sometimes say, oh, you're not intelligent, you are old generation, you don't understand, you go away from your life, you shut up your mouth, all those things they may say. But still, parents want to give their love to children, irrespective of the neglect done by children, like that. He's saying, Krishna is saying that love is better than the first category, which is like merchant mentality. Oh, I do this, then you do that, like that, not like that. Then he describes the third class of men neither reciprocate nor neglect. That means they neither reciprocate with love, like the first class of merchant class, or they don't neglect also. What is this? He's elaborating them. He says they are divided further into two classes. One class is Atmarama, self-satisfied. Later he describes this is him. Indirectly he's telling they're self-satisfied who don't require anyone's love. They're already self-satisfied. They're called Atmarama, which means they're absorbed in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so do not care whether one loves them or not. This is the first subdivision of the people who neither reciprocate nor neglect, like that, right? Atmarama, self-satisfied people. This is what the category he belongs to is trying to tell. And then second subdivision of them is ungrateful men, he says. They are called callous. That means this is the example is again parents example is giving. In the previous division, he said parents keep on giving love, even children neglect, right? Now he's going to other side. Children neglect parents even though parents are giving so much love. So from children's perspective, they're very ungrateful. That is the example Krishna is giving now. That yeah, for instance, in spite of receiving all kinds of things from loving parents or a loving spiritual master, the children or the disciples, if they don't reciprocate, then that is the worst kind of people. Prabhupada writes, they are called Guru Druha, which means they receive favors from parents or spiritual master, and yet they neglect the parents or spiritual master like that. This is becoming being ungrateful. These are other categories describing. So Prabhupada is clarifying to us that mm, basically Gopi's intention of this asking was, even though we loved you so much, you did not reciprocate with us. Like that, they're trying to ask. Krishna is telling that, mm, Krishna is saying that he is actually self-satisfied. He doesn't require anyone's love. But at the same time, is not neglectful or ungrateful like that. That's what he's explaining. He will explain further. He says, to explain that point, that how he's not ungrateful, how he doesn't, he's self-satisfied, he'll explain further. He says, actually, you might be aggrieved by my acts, but you must know, sometimes I don't reciprocate with dealings, with my devotees' dealings with me. So he's trying to give reasons. First is he's telling that sometimes I don't reciprocate with my devotees. That is not because of a problem with them, not because of a fault in me, but he's trying to inspire more devotion, more intensity of devotion and love for Krishna in them, it seems. That is why he sometimes doesn't reciprocate. Meaning, he gives an example that example to understand is, if a person has no money at all, but after some time he gets lots of money. Okay, first is very very poor. He doesn't have any money. After some time he gets a lot of money. Then he loses all the money. That means he got the taste of more money, and then he lost all the money. If he's poor all the time, it's one story. But if he's poor, he got all the money and he lost all the money. Then he says that he will think of the lost property 24 hours a day. He will think of money 24 hours a day. So much absorption is there. Similarly, when Krishna's association is there for devotees and they lose it for some time, then they'll be so absorbed in Krishna, getting the Krishna's association back again. So like that, Krishna is describing that's how their loving sentiments for Krishna will increase and their intensity of love for Krishna will increase like that. Sometimes, uh, sometimes actually we can see in a devotee's life also that, of course, there are many, many reasons why Krishna creates some situations in different devotees' lives. But this is one of the ways we can take it as practice in devotees. If something is happening in our life, take it in such a way that our intensity of love can increase. How can that happen? When we tolerate the circumstances and then we increase our devotion towards Krishna. That means we increase the Tivra Bhakti. The more difficult substance we get, the more severity, intensity we increase in our Bhakti, either quality or quantity like that. That's so we can continue going towards Krishna. Actually, this month is Purushottam Mas. That's one of the nice verse. Many devotees read 10th canto, 14th chapter. That is Lord Brahma's prayers after Brahma Vimochan Lila. In that the 8th verse starts with Tattenu Kampam Susamikshamanam. That was. That was also one of the lesson is that only. That a devotee, even though he's going through so much suffering currently, in circumstantially, but he still considers it's only because of his own past deeds. And he continues to wait for Krishna's mercy. And then continues in devotion service like that. When he does that, Krishna's mercy will come, and then he can he's he's the rightful heir of the Lord's property, like that is described. That means he can go back to Godhead. By how? By tolerating circumstances, by not blaming somebody else, but taking responsibility for our own mistakes in the past, for our current sufferings, and then by continuing devotion service. That's the important point. Just tolerating is not enough. Just taking responsibility is not enough. But continuing in devotion service is important. The word that is used in the later end of this chapter is apratyata, uninterrupted devotion service, basically. Ahituki, apratyata, the two terms used, we'll discuss them also. So that's what is being described here. So during difficult circumstances, we'll continue to increase devotion because the difficult circumstances in life are given so that we can learn certain lesson, number one, so that we can intensify our devotion to go closer towards Krishna. Those are two principles we can always remember. Of course, it's easy to say it than when we're really in a difficult circumstance to practice it. But how do we get that strength to practice it in a real difficult circumstance? When we're doing sadhana nicely right now, when everything is going on okay, number one. Number two, when a difficult circumstance comes, we don't isolate ourselves from everybody else. Why did Krishna do this? This bhakti is useless. I did so many rounds of chanting every day. What did Krishna do for me? I will go away from bhakti. I'll go away from devotees. We should not do that. Instead, we should continue to connect with devotees. Even it means only one devotee, one of a mentor. That's absolutely okay. But one devotee we need to connect at least. So basically, the point is we should continue devotion. We should do nice sadhana right now when everything is going fine, so that in difficult circumstances we can have the spiritual strength to deal with circumstance, and and the necessary spiritual strength to maintain the devotee association, at least with one or two devotees, few devotees like that, who are very close to us like that. That we maintain, then we can continue devotion service that way. Then we'll see that that circumstance actually helped us to grow in bhakti like that. We'll see. So now that all Krishna is explaining. Okay, now we are saying, okay, Krishna will give difficulty anyway to devotees. Now we need to just learn to deal with it. That's how we are saying, right? Now Krishna is saying, don't think like that only. I'm actually with you. What is he saying? He's saying, sometimes I appear to be lost to them. Instead of forgetting me, they feel their loving sentiments for me increases. Like that. That's what he's describing. Then he says, actually, do- um, don't think that I'm dealing with you like any other ordinary devotees. You are actually my topmost devotees. So I don't deal with you like ordinary devotees, he's saying. So what is that? He says, why are you not ordinary? He's saying first. He's saying you forsaken all the social and religious regulations. You didn't care about anybody just to love me. So that's why you have a special position in my heart like that. He says, I'm so much obliged to you that I cannot treat you as ordinary devotees. Who is telling? Lord Krishna. When somebody, let us say we are in some higher position. When somebody does some service, we think, oh, I'm entitled. They must serve me like that. That's okay. They're there, they're serving. Krishna is thinking, he's obliged for the service gopis are rendering like that. That is the nature of gratefulness that Krishna has for all of our devotion, especially for the gopis. So then he says, do not think I was away from you. I was near you only. I was simply seeing how much you are anxious for me in my absence. So commonly our acharyas talk about crying for Krishna. That's what he's talking about. Anxious for me, anxious for Krishna in his absence. So when we develop such intense love slowly through sadhana bhakti, then we'll also feel the separation from Krishna. Then he's saying, don't try to find fault with me. Because you consider me dear to you, kindly excuse me if I have done anything wrong. Krishna is seeking forgiveness from whom? From gopis. So we can learn from such a great master. What we that means we can seek forgiveness from anyone. We can. It's not only from our superiors, from our inferiors also. We can feel our juniors also. We can seek forgiveness. That is a mood of humility we need to develop. See, Krishna himself is showing by personal example for us. So what is wrong with us, right? Then he says, this is the most important thing. This is one of the often quoted verse, basically. Prabhupada paraphrased it here. What he's saying is, I cannot repay your continuous love for me. Even though, even even throughout the lifetimes of the demigods in the heavenly planets. That means even if I try to pay your love for so many lifetimes of demigods, still I cannot repay the love you have given to me. It's impossible to repay you or show enough gratitude for your love. So see the height of Krishna's gratitude. Therefore, please be satisfied by your own pious activities. Please be satisfied with your highly exemplary character. For it's not possible for me to repay my debt to you. This is showing two things. One is Krishna's grateful attitude towards Gopi's love and devotion, and then Gopi's exalted position, exalted love and devotion for Krishna. And he's saying, basically, your service to me itself is your reward, like that. That's a very important point for us also to learn. Initially, as practicing devotees, sometimes we do service thinking that this is good for me, like that, as a duty platform. Sometimes some of us might do service to get a name before everybody. Oh, everybody will appreciate me if I do this service, like that. Sometimes we do the service thinking that if I don't do the service, everybody will look bad at me, like that. So, but as we learn to serve somehow, as long as we continue serving Krishna and devotees somehow or other, slowly we can have the hope. And it happens for many devotees, we can practically see. Slowly we can hope that our service attitude will increase gradually. Then we want to serve naturally, and we'll relish the serving itself. Not that by serving I will get something. Not like that. But we want to serve because we love to serve, like that. That is the position we'll get to. So our aspiration is to get to that position. I'm not there like that, but we're all practicing so that one day we'll get to that position. Right now it feels like, oh my God, I need to do this service. Oh my God, I need to do this service, like that. But when practicing it, we'll get the taste of service. And then we get the pleasure in service because Krishna is pleased. If you're doing with that consciousness to please Krishna, whatever we're trying to do, then with Krishna's pleasure, Krishna gives us mercy. So we'll get some taste and we'll get more and more service attitude and pleasure in service also. That's what we can learn from this particular section. I think the last paragraph for today is saying exemplary character of devotion service manifested by devotees of Vrindavana is the purest type of devotion. Of course, in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita also we're in the same section in Madhya Lila, 8th chapter. The conversation between Ramananda Rai and Lord Chaitanya is described. We briefly talked about it today also in the beginning of this session. But essentially, they start their conversation with what is the goal of life? What is the highest goal of life, like that? And then Ramananda Rai describes Gnana Mishra Bhakti, Bhakti without Gnana, mixture of Gnana, and then Bhakti in Sakya Bhav, Bhakti in Vasalya Bhav, Bhakti in Madhurya Rasa of Gopis, and then he describes the topmost love of Radharani, like that. So like that, here also is being described that devotees in Vrindavana have the topmost, purest devotion, like that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has accepted that answer and is very, very pleased with Ramananda Rai's answer also. Then, yeah, here Prabhupada is referring to how devotion service should be ahaituki apratikata. These are words from the first canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. This was called Savai Pumsa Paradharma, Edo Bhaktir Adokshaje, Ahetiki Apratikata Bhakti, Yayatma Suprasidati. The devotional service that is performed without any interruptions and without any motive is the highest, and it will please our soul completely. It will satisfy the soul fully, like that. That means if we are not feeling fully satisfied in devotion service, we can see, am I doing devotion service with some material motivation, or I'm not doing devotion service continuously? Am I getting interrupted? Am I not doing devotion service every day nicely? Like that, we can check. As long as we have those two elements nicely, we will be feeling satisfaction and happiness. And that comes through devotion service. So ahituki means without any motivation. Apratika means uninterrupted. regularly like that. Of course, there are acharyas describe ahayutapika as another meanings also, that how devotional service doesn't have any other cause. That means just because I'm doing a lot of charity, I'll get devotional service, not like that. Just because I'm doing a lot of uh, what else, austerities, I'll get devotional service, not like that. So they are also essential. Charity and austerity are also important principles, especially for grostha and vanaprastha like that, right? Those are important principles. But still, bhakti is causeless. That's another aspect also acharyas describe on this topic. Then, yeah, the gopis' devotion was very, very pure. That's why Krishna was indebted to them. And Lord Chaitanya also said that devotion service manifested by gopis in Vrindavana excelled all other measures of approaching Krishna. So this is actually one of the internal reasons of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One of the reasons of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appearance, that he wanted to give us Krishna Prema. What kind of Krishna Prema? The Prema that is exhibited by gopis of Vrindavan directly. That exalted Prema we are supposed to get. And how are we going to get there? If you do our sadhana nicely now, if you chant attentively, if you don't make any offenses towards devotees in our devotional practices, then by chanting attentively Hare Krishna Mahamantra nicely, we can get there. We can realize all the benefits of the chanting the holy name, including the perfection of life is in our reach. It's not like it's far away. We can never get it like that. All we need to do is chant nicely as best as we can, as we hearing from a spiritual master and sadhus, and then make sure we are not offending anybody or any living entity, or not making any offenses. With this, we can keep chanting and hearing, so that we can grow in bhakti nicely. In fact, this Purushottam month, we can take it as an opportunity to increase our chanting and hearing more and more as much as we can. Of course, more important is keep whatever we are doing before. That is more important. Then do anything extra after that only. That is more important. But don't get overwhelmed with too many prescriptions everywhere about Purushottamas. We pick something that we can sustain and do that happily. Then that's pleasing to Krishna. And don't do things mechanically, but understand the meaning of what are we doing. For example, we are reciting some scripture verses. Understand the meaning. That is more important. Let us say you're not able to recite the whole chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. That's okay. At least read one purport every day. That is more important, because then you'll understand. And with the meaning, the essence is to get the meaning of the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. Not just recite it like a parrot, but we don't understand anything what we are doing. Of course, there's still purity in just reciting also. That is not to be minimized also, because these are Krishna's words, right? They'll have purity. Swadhyaya has purity. Just by reading Bhagavad Gita, even if we don't understand anything, it purifies us. But still, as practicing devotees, we try to understand the meaning also. For example, we can recite the Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter every day, for example. We can read every day one purport. It's only like 20, 24 verses are there, I think. So we can read every day one purport. By the end of the month, you also learn the chapter nicely. Whatever we can understand, that's okay. That's up to Krishna. But at least we'll try our best. Like that. Yeah. I think, yeah, we're almost close to time. But we have 3-4 minutes. If anybody has any comments, what they like from the session today, or anything that they noticed, I may not have noticed it myself when reading also. Please share any comments or questions. We can also discuss for a few minutes, if there's anything at all.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna
for
Mataji.
the for such a wonderful explanations of everything. Particularly, I really like the fact that like what we learn from Krishna, like we learn everything from Krishna. It's parampara system. But what I really liked is Krishna is so forgiving, and he even asks for forgiveness if he makes mistakes. So we learn from the leaders. Our leader is Krishna himself, right? So
Yeah,
I really like that fact. And even if we want to, like, like practice that in our life, like it's not easy. It's not really easy.
correct.
But even if I like tinge of it, I would be so glad. I would be so glad. So Prabhu, I really picked up on that point. Forgiving.
Wonderful, Mataji. Nice
Thank you.
point. Yeah, excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Acharyas describe, devotees describe that by forgiving, actually, we are benefiting more than other person benefiting.
Yes, yes.
Because if we're not forgiving, we're always thinking about them. They should have this. They should get rid of the mistake like that. Then we
Yeah,
cannot chant
yeah,
peacefully, attentively. Yeah.
yeah,
Good,
yeah.
Mati. Nice point, Mati. Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Nirat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam Prabhu.
I joined late. So which chapter was that, Prabhuji?
32 chapter Prabhu. Chapter title is Krishna returns. Let me see. Krishna returns back to gopis. I think is chapter. Let me see.
So it's
Yeah,
one of the five.
Krishna has returned to the gopis.
So one of the 5 chapters, right?
Yeah, correct. Rasa Panchadaya. Correct. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Okay, no problem. Okay, I wanted to ask this. I did not get the connection. You connected with the Ramananda Raya conversation.
Uh-huh.
So what point you wanted to convey with the connecting this pastime and with the Ramananda Raya and the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
Yeah, Prabhupada was writing in 2 different, same chapter, at least 2-3 places I was connecting. One was how he was telling Radharani's love is top, Radharani is the topmost gopi, like that. That is one point.
Okay.
And that is a conversation in Ramananda Rai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu conversation also. First question answer, he talks about like that.
Mm-hmm.
That is one. What is the goal of human life, right? In that connection, he talks about Radharani is the topmost and Radharani's love is the topmost, like that. And second connection was also toward the end of the chapter, where he says, love of the gopis in Vrindavan excels all other methods of devotion service to approach Krishna, like that. So both are in connection of gopis and Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna by Prabhu. So there are 2 connections where he says also that Krishna wants to, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to give, right? That Krishna Prema, Vraja Prema he wants to give us. Prema as by gopis.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, sure, true. Yeah.
Thank you. This is nectarian actually.
Yes, true. Nice chapters we got to read. Luckily,
Yeah.
it came in the Purushottam month also.
Nice.
That's nice.
And
Yeah.
that you with devoted, it's really nice.
Exactly, bro. Yeah.
I think one more remaining, right?
Yeah, I
28.
think so. Yeah, I don't know the chapter numbers. Which one is that? Rasa
It
Panchadaya.
starts on 27 and 28 it starts, I believe.
Got it. Yeah, probably because the next chapter is Rasa dance chapter. Yes.
Oh, the most heaviest
Yeah.
one.
Yes, true. Yeah, correct. You're right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you, Prabhuji. Thank
Welcome,
you for
bro.
wonderful explanation.
Welcome, bro. Hare Krishna.
Very Krishna.
Any other things? Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, we can meet again next week. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Let's offer our obeisance to all the devotees of the Lord. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kupasindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.